It's Sarah from the Support Worker Store. Today I've got Matt from ShiftCare. Welcome, Matt, to the podcast.
Morning, Sarah. How are you?
Fantastic. I was so thrilled to have you on because CRMs are so important in our sector, and especially for independents and providers. So to be able to pick your brains today, thank you.
No, likewise. I'm just really excited to have a chat and a real honest chat with you and, yeah, dive in deep.
Let's go. Let's get cracking. Matt, you joined ShiftCare after a really impressive run in the tech sector. What drew you to the care sector?
Look, I guess like most people, as they reach a certain age, they reflect on where their career's been, and you go, actually, you know what, I've learned a lot in these other organizations, achieved some great things, but I also wanted to work in a sector where I could actually make a difference for those people potentially less advantaged than I was. And more importantly, because I'm not the type of person that can provide care to those with a disability or elderly, that's just not me, right? But if I could provide the environmental tools that made it easier for those people that are at that coalface to do their job and make their job a little bit easier, which ultimately flowed on to maybe the participant achieving their goals and objectives earlier, or the elderly achieving their goals and objectives earlier. That's really what I wanted to do. So I wanted to make software that actually that created a difference for people.
So a lot of people might have found it quite overwhelming to do the shift because disability and aged care is, at times very different to what you've come from. What was that like the first week for you when you moved sectors?
Yeah, look, I think the first thing I noticed was the fact that, God, I've made the right move. I love it. Day one was like, wow, I could feel the difference straight away. One of the things I like to do is pick up the phone and talk to customers at the coalface and hear what they do, what's working. And I don't have to know anything about the product. I just have to say, hey, Sarah, you're a user of ShiftCare. Tell me what you love, tell me what you hate, and tell me what sucks about ShiftCare, right? And that's what I started to do. And it was like, wow, I'm in the right industry. These people are doing this for the right reason. They're just awesome people. And I'm just so glad I made the change.
Was there ever a particular moment where you're like, right, yeah, I'm in the right spot? Like, did it come straight away?
Yeah, look, I think it came on day one, to tell you the truth. Day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, especially for that first month. It was, it was just, wow, look, I have made the right I have made the right move, and it feels like I can make a real difference to the industry in my way.
What is the coolest part? Because people think of tech and it's not always cool. What is the coolest part about being in this space?
Look, I feel like it's just getting to know the people in the sector, what they do, understanding what their job looks like end to end, whether they're a care worker in the front line, and they're rocking up to a shift to fill a last minute replacement. I wanted to know what went through their mind. What are the concerns, thoughts, and worries about, hey, I'm going to see this participant, but I've never met them before, right? So I wanted to understand all of that. And the part that makes the difference for me is, right, how can I empower them with the information and knowledge at that right point in time? It makes their job just a little bit easier and they feel empowered. And I feel like we're able to make a difference in that area. And that's the same whether we're working across the people in rostering, the people at payroll, people invoicing, or even business intelligence or compliance. I feel like once I understand their end-to-end job, we can somehow continue to make their job just a little bit easier.
It is very much integrated. There's so many different jobs required within a provider to make it successful to go out. So yeah, I get what you're saying. Like it is cool like that because you don't quite see that everywhere else. And then because the roles are so different as well and complex, he has stepped aside and he's a founder of ShiftCare. How have you been able to build on his vision?
Yeah, look, Gaurav had developed the idea and vision for ShiftCare when his wife was working for a disability provider in Sydney. And he would see the paperwork and the stress that she would bring home. And he was a tech guy, a software developer, and thought he just knew we could make that easier for her and her organization. So he really built a system for them in his part-time. And then he realized, hey, this system has legs and it can make a difference to the whole sector.
Yeah.
And the goal was, hey, can I remove some of the workload from the people in the back office, the rosters, the schedulers, the payroll, the invoicing team, and also the care team? So how could he build a platform that removes some of that overhead and actually helped inform the caregivers so they could deliver better, more quality care. So if he could fill up that, reduce the admin time on all fronts, they could provide a better service to their participants. So that was his vision, really.
Wow, what a like, it only takes one person, doesn't it? Like, literally to see a
I
problem and
know
a gap, and then it just kinda snowballs because a lot of people are looking for that. For those who might not know
exactly.
about ShiftCare, how would you describe ShiftCare for anyone that's met you guys for the very first time?
I'll try not to use any technology words, buzzwords, or essentially like that. I
Yep.
guess a couple of principles. We aim to make sure that the right caregiver is with the right participant and delivers the right services aligned to that participant's goal at the right time, while also ensuring that that caregiver is paid correctly and the organization gets paid. I guess that's what we do. And over the top of that, we try to wrap it up and helping you make you a little bit more compliant.
There are so many apps in this space at the moment. What makes ShiftCare so different? I think I already know the answer because you guys are really innovative, but, like, tell me.
Yeah, look, we pride ourselves on our innovation, but I still don't. There's a couple of elements to it. Everything for us revolves around the roster and schedule. So if you don't get that right, everything else just falls apart. So we try to make that super easy and connected for the scheduler, the rosterer, and for them to ensure that the right caregiver is in the right place for the right participant. And our application makes sure that the right caregivers know where to be, what to deliver, and what to document. And then if you look at, I'm really amazed by this. I think we've got about 25,000 app reviews on our mobile app, and it might be about 4.7 stars. Not all perfect, and we try to read as many as we can, but I think it's the mobile app that makes the real difference. People just find it so easy to use. Like a potential client was asking us the other day, how long does it take to train your staff? I know we were asking a client, how long does it take you to train your staff on shift care? And they said 15 minutes. And we said, oh, okay, that's the caregiver. How long does it take to train the scheduler? She said 15 minutes. So that's one of the most complicated roles. Staff normally pick it up in the matter of minutes. The people are actually at the coal face. So I think that's what probably makes us the most different, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, it's so easy to work around the board, like from app to desktop. Now, what goes into planning what to release next? Like, is it something that you get feedback, or is it just like, oh, that's a great idea. I saw this. How do you get feedback to keep innovating such change?
Yeah, we look at a couple of different, I'm going to call them information sources. One is the market's requesting this feature. So we're either seeing this at an industry level, or we're hearing it from prospects, or hearing it from another geography. That's one source. The other source is directly from our customers. We try to have a strong customer voice, and we try to touch as many as we can. We can't touch them all, but we try to know what do they want that's really causing friction at the moment in their organization, or what else would they like us to develop. Then another one we look at is, kind of customer churn's a really big thing in a software industry. So you try to minimize customer churn. And so when people do say, hey, Matt, ShiftCare team, ShiftCare is not right for us at the moment, we try to find out what is not right at the moment. And we try to classify that and build that into our future roadmap. And then the last element is support tickets. So one of our things is we try to make sure we answer a support chat in 30 seconds. And that's with a real person, not AI, none of that kind of stuff. It's a real person trained on ShiftCare. Now, we look at every single request that we get. So it's either a chat or it's a voice call or email, and we classify them. We say, okay, is this related to the scheduling system, payroll, invoicing? And we look at, are those tickets going up or down? And if they're going up and the resolution time is taking longer, so that's frustrating our staff and our clients, right? We try to prioritize those as well. So we look at it in those kind of, I think there was 4 buckets I think I'm potentially looking at.
So, was there any feedback that you got like, God, that is one damn good idea? Let's go tech team. Let's go. Let's get it. Let's get it done. Can you recall any moments where you're like, right, let's get this on the system ASAP because it's a damn good idea?
Yeah, look, there is. And you know what I'm gutted about? I can't claim it as mine. This was on the team prior to me, but it's just freaking awesome. I guess the most underrated feature would have to be our job board feature. And what does job board mean, right? Like we have to rename it, make sense to people, but that's like our Uber. And so you have essentially Uber for drivers, which is your Uber for the driver, which is your care worker, and Uber for your agency. And the beauty about that is that as a care worker, I can be sitting in bed scrolling through and getting a notification saying, "Hey, Matt, you matched the qualifications, training, and location for this shift. Would you like to apply for it?" And you can select yes, and it will automatically approve you, or it can go for manual approval. I think that's the most underrated feature we've got because it starts to democratize scheduling and it starts to outsource that to the people that matter most, your care workers. And the other cool thing that I did release, but it's off the back of that, so I can't really claim it was my brainchild. Staff are going to cancel a shift, right, Sarah? You know, like my kids are sick. You need to take them to school or something like that. I need to take it to the doctor at the last moment. So I'd bring you up at night, Sarah, and say, "Hey, Sarah, sorry, I can't make my
Yeah.
9 a.m. shift. You know, tomorrow I've got to take my daughter Chloe to the doctor. It is what it is. I cannot do it." So you go, "Oh my God, shit. Matt can't make his shifts." The first thing you've got to do is go, "I've got 50 caregivers working for me. What? Who was he working
Yeah.
for? Where's that shift?" So you've got to go find it. Then you've got to try and text everybody late at night to say, "Hey, Diane, can you take Matt's shifts tomorrow?" Right? So um, we thought people are going to cancel anyway. You create the SLAs in your organization to say, "Hey, Matt can cancel a shift within 12 hours and he's got to provide a reason." But that'll automatically go up in our job board and automatically notify qualified caregivers who are free, who match the train compliance requirements in that location for that participant. And they can either apply for it and you can approve them, or you can auto approve them. So at least we're just trying to reduce the workload for the scheduling team.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess that's what I love the most, to tell you the truth, because it's all fits around automation.
Have you heard any success stories by implementing that change from from independents to providers having the job board?
Yeah, look, it's amazing. I don't normally have the best memory, but there's an organization called Capability Supports down in Canberra. Amazing, founded by three amazing guys doing amazing things down in the Canberra region. I think from memory, they started about 2 years ago. There was just a couple of them. And when they were starting out, they said, they used ShiftCare and they had the ability to build the organization from the ground up. And they really relied on the job board functionality to outsource the scheduling to automation and their caregivers. And what that enabled them to do is grow to, I think, 200 staff within 2 years. Roughly, don't quote me on that, but roughly about that, without the need to hire admin after admin after admin to do that. So I reckon they're one of the best success stories I've heard. Just embracing that tech.
100% because it would cut down that time and the on call as well that goes into when somebody calls up sick and you've got to try to replace it. Yeah, like that's a really quite friendly feature. And then because I've rostered for the last decade, and I can tell you right now that I've manually rostered for the last decade. The idea of having something that's automated would have saved me a lot of grey hairs.
Well, because we get we talk to people and they break down crying sometimes because there's just so much pressure on the people doing the
Yeah.
rostering to find placement. Like our participants need the care. Like God, heaven forbid, that the pressure's on you, unfortunately. So if we can just alleviate some of that pressure, then hey, we've done our job.
Yep. 100%. How does ShiftCare balance everything when it comes to compliant while being user friendly?
Oh, the question's kind of black and white, really. Compliance is it's a non-negotiable, unfortunately. So, where we understand what we need to be compliant, it's just a non-negotiable. So we'll build that in. But then I guess what our philosophy over the top of that is, how do we reduce the friction in that? And we'll just continually focus on that myopically month after month. We might not get it right the first time, but each iteration after that will just remove the friction where we possibly can. I guess that's our focus, and just take the feedback to constantly evolve.
ShiftCare generations have there been? Like from the very beginning to now? Like, has it been like a couple of goes at it?
Do you mean
So from the beginning when the app first went up, it would have looked quite basic to now. Is it the updates for every generation that to create this app? Have how many times have you had to completely update it? Because it's quite big.
Look, we keep on adding to it. Like in the last year, I joined last
Yeah.
April. Probably since then, we might have launched 150 to 180 features. So they're just constantly iterating. And what we try to do is just deliver that in the platform. And depending on what kind of plan you get different features, but it's always on innovation. I couldn't even tell you what version of the mobile app we're up to, but
Yeah.
our goal is if we've got a feature and there's no reason not to turn it on, we're going to turn it on and give it to as many customers as we possibly can. And yes, that can be confronting for some of our customers. Sometimes we don't get it right, but I tell you what, I'd prefer the feature was in your hands and you can make the decision rather than me waiting in the background
Yeah.
going, I've got to get the perfect launch plan. And that can be confronting for both our customers and our staff, but that's kind of our philosophy.
With a lot of companies, they tend to hold off and it takes so long to get something across the line. You've been able to introduce so many new features in a short period of time. What is it? I take it this comes down to you and your team going, you know what, bugger it, let's give it a crack. What has been able
Yeah.
to get them across the line? Because a lot of people get held up like, oh, should we do it? Should we do it? How have you guys been able to act so fast and get it done?
I guess I've worked in many organizations, right, where it could take you build the feature, might take you 6 months, 7 months to build the feature, then it takes another year to get into the hands of the client. Like that's just unacceptable, right? It's there's no time to value. And so our approach now is there better be a bloody damn good reason that we don't put the feature in your
Yeah.
hands. And sometimes that can come at the expense of documentation, help text. But so many people they self-discover, they're semi-tech literate. They can take that and you know what? They've come to love the fact that you log into ShiftCare tomorrow, there'll be a new feature there. Now, and it does cause some tension, but I can guarantee you, you know, if you asked every single one of them, what would they prefer? They prefer to wait 3 to 6 months for that feature, or they prefer to have a surprise tomorrow morning and that feature's turned on. You know, occasionally we get it wrong and it might tweak something, it might adjust something, and it might cause a support request and we have to go back and do it. But it never affects all of our customers. It's only a very small percentage. And a lot of people in tech companies, they manage to that noise. And that noise is the vocal few of, you know, 2-3%. Stuff that, like really stuff that, like the rest of your customers deserve this feature. And just because this person has to be vocal and yeah, that's not the way to manage a company in our perspective anyway.
Must admit, I went to a networking event, like a conferencey type, where I had two ladies next to me that were new providers, and both of them had their laptops up, and they both had ShiftCare up, and they were talking amongst themselves and talking about, well, look what I did with my ShiftCare. Oh, did you do that? And then I was listening into the conversation, thinking, wow, like, besides like what you guys have got available online to learn how to use ShiftCare and the phone calls and the emails and all the bots in between, just having these two ladies open up their laptop and just talk about it quite freely. It's quite cute to watch, actually. It was really lovely.
Yeah, look, that's awesome. And, you know, that's what makes it better. I was looking at one of the Facebook channels the other day, and I think somebody used the term shifty. So I want to call those kind of people shifties, and a shout out to all those shifties that love shifting. Thank you. We just love to hear the good, bad, and the ugly, because if we hear the bad and the ugly, we can just continue to be better.
The fact that they were able to network with each other and talk about the type of integrations you can do, and they were helping each other out to the point that, like, they were able to use the system much more efficiently. Yeah, it's cute. Sorry. I thought I'd tell you that because I thought, oh, they
No, that's awesome.
they
Thanks, Sarah.
purposely went like, yeah, yeah. They were taking notes for each other. What is one of the biggest barriers for small NDIS and aged care providers when adopting technology, and how has ShiftCare been able to break through and break it down to make it easy for anyone to be onboarded?
Yeah, oh, God. I guess one of the biggest barriers is they don't. A lot of providers don't want to adopt the out of the box features and workflows. And, you know, many other software providers have a philosophy is we want to give you as much flexibility as we possibly can on our platform. You can create anything you want. But the problem with that, there's just an innate order of complexity comes with that, and it makes it hard to maintain their software, hard to deliver features. But more, the worst thing of all, it makes it real. It needs to mean that you are the SME of your own domain, and you know what a best practice process flow for this situation in your care organization looks like. And a lot of providers, they don't know that. They don't have the experience. They haven't seen what best practice looks across like 6,500 providers. We feel like we have, not to say everything's always right for everybody, but we propose that the biggest barrier to people is not adopting the out-of-box features and workflows in ShiftCare and wanting to just create their own and be myopically obsessed of, hey, this is the way I used to do it at Care Provider X. This is the way we're going to do it in ShiftCare or any other platform for that matter. And you have to adjust to that. And it's like, well, not really, because this is the way 6,500 other providers do it and do it every day.
When you guys were creating the platform, because dyslexic as hell, right? So I love to pull the string. So when I was playing around with ShiftCare, I would pull the string and another box would open and something else would open. I thought, oh, wow. When you were creating ShiftCare, did you have this in mind for these neurodivergent, spicy people out there that love tech?
Look, I couldn't tell you the truth, but I think one of the cool things you're talking about is really that anytime you open a new feature, it opens a new tab in the browser, and so you can always go back, etc. So I think that's pretty cool, and I kind of like that. It allows you to multitask really well. But that's really great to hear. But I still think we can do better, to tell you the truth. I still think sometimes when you go into aspects of our platform that, hey, there's what I call too many keystrokes, too many steps to do a process, and it should be, and there's a bit of an information overload. And most of the time you don't need that. So I think there's an opportunity to still simplify our interface and just make it quicker, simpler, and easier. But also with that, we need to have better inheritance, better rules, and better enforcement so you can't make mistakes.
I found when I entered into ShiftCare that as I was going along, I'd have a phone call from somebody from ShiftCare. Is that to make sure, like, are they able to see the board that I'm working with, or is that just a follow-up call to see how I was going?
It's normally what we try to do is there's an amazing number of people who they sign up to ShiftCare, they start using it all by themselves. They don't need any help. They're really, really self-sufficient. But over and above that, we always want to try where we possibly can, where we've got the bandwidth to touch base with anybody, with all of those people and say, hey, Sarah, notice you're using ShiftCare. Is there anything we can help you with? We can sort of see how often you're logged in, what features you're using, but that's about it. And what it gives us an idea is what's the state of evolution of your onboarding and what's your journey? And we can see at particular stages of that journey, does it look like they might be stuck or having some issues? And that's when we get in. But we only sort of see really you've entered clients, you've entered participants, but you haven't entered a shift. Those type of things. We haven't entered your price books or haven't set up your price books. So if we see that in an onboarding stage, then we can say, hey, we might be able to interject and just help Sarah or anybody else for that matter.
Big providers have started to come over to ShiftCare. As being a big provider, that means you've got a lot of staff, you've got a lot of NDIS participants. How do they get all that data from their previous CRM to ShiftCare with ease?
To be honest, that's a pain in the backside.
Anytime you move CRMs, it's a pain.
Yeah. And it doesn't, I guess it doesn't have to be a pain, but many people, one of the reasons they don't move is the fear of change and uncertainty. And, oh God, how long is it going to take? The last time I did this, it virtually killed me. It doesn't have to be that big and that cumbersome. So our approach is, right, you've got your existing CRM, but what do you truly need in week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4 onwards to run with ShiftCare? And when it comes down to it, it doesn't have to be a lot. It can be, right, you've got to get your participants across. So we've really got an import process that helps you import your participants. Unfortunately, you still have to import your documents manually and attach them to the participant. But the participant part all happens like that. It can happen in a CSV file. We can import that from Employment Hero, PayCat, Xero, MYB. Any one of those kind of systems is pretty straightforward. That's the clients. The staff, we can also do the same. We can import them for Xero, MYB, or your existing system. We can import documents from places like Employment Hero, like training, certification, and so forth. So that can happen quite quickly. Then you get to the more complex part, which is shifts. So shifts are the pain. So we'd only recommend you create the future roster in ShiftCare. And so you just do that manually. It doesn't really take that long because you can create recurring shifts and edit them quite quickly. That's really quite straightforward. Then you have to go, right, from a client perspective, how do I want to import the history? And so we'd really recommend that you kind of consolidate that history in a PDF or a Word document, and you add that as an attachment to the client's profile so it's there. So you might only need that for the first month. Your caregivers might only need that for the first month plus audit. So it's always there. And then, but by doing that, it's really simple. And then if I'm a large provider, I might go, actually, you know what? Rather than just doing the big, I'm going to do all 27 sill houses, all my 200, 500 staff or 1,000 staff, whatever they are. I'm going to pick a segment. I'm just going to go the Albury-Wodonga region, and I'm just going to go for my 5 sill houses down there, and I'm going to put them on ShiftCare first because they're my vocal staff, they're first movers, they want to try new stuff, and I'll go live with them and, without any issues, but they become then my proof point across the organization.
So it's not as big as people think it is at times, because I think for when you move CRMs, people get quite overwhelmed. I know for in the past, I've been quite overwhelmed with the idea of moving the, people without having any integration. And I do recall that at one time physically doing 100 profiles manually.
No.
Yeah, but we've come a long way. So for independent,
To give you an idea, I was talking with a client on Friday. Actually, they have 2,000 clients, and they thought the program was going to be 6 months to implement ShiftCare. I caught up with them for lunch on Friday. They were really surprised it only took them 4 weeks. So, it's really, for the most complex providers, it should be a 4 to 8 week process. Normal providers, it should be a matter of 2 to 4 weeks.
Yeah. That puts things in perspective, doesn't it? Because for independent support workers who are, because you do have a collective of independent support workers that use ShiftCare for all of their business practically and streamlining. How can ShiftCare help them streamline and make their admin look more professional?
I guess we are what we call a vertical SaaS platform, and we aim to be like a one-stop shop for those smaller providers. Very cost effective. I think the first plan starts at $40 a month, so that is really cheap. So we're a one-stop shop that allows you to create your prospective new clients, provide them a quote, provide them a service agreement, onboard them. Then it allows you to onboard staff, manage your staff while managing timesheets, and also helping you get paid from either self-managed participants by sending them an invoice, sending the plan manager an invoice, or actually real-time claiming with the NDA. That's all baked in. All of these features just come out of the box. So really, you shouldn't need another platform to start with. Once you get to a certain stage, you might go, actually, Sarah, you and I are running a really good business. Actually, we probably need to roll out an accounting platform. That's when we go and buy a subscription to Xero, and that's just a plug-in to ShiftCare. And that allows you to manage your invoicing, takes you to a different level of maturity. Once we grow a little bigger, we go, actually, you know what? We need a better payroll engine, and we go to Employment Hero. Once we grow a little bit more, we go, actually, you know what? We need a dedicated HR platform for our staff and for us, and we might go to Employment Hero as well. So we can help you start in the very beginning, but also help you grow, and you just plug in whatever you want from a best practice stack perspective.
Fantastic. Like if I compare, I think, sorry if this is a bad representation, but I think of HubSpot as a CRM and how I'm forever to work. The business that I run is completely different from the care sector. And every time I want to do something, I have to keep adding in, and it becomes a very expensive exercise for me as I've gotten bigger. What I love about ShiftCare is that it doesn't feel like I'm having this really expensive exercise just to do the business itself. That's pretty cool that you've been able to keep things so cost effective.
Well, actually, one of our philosophies is how do we just keep the price? So we haven't put our price up. Where we've added a new feature where there might be a direct cost of sale, our principle is, can we absorb it? So we rolled out a messaging function, we've absorbed that. We rolled out AI, we've absorbed that. We rolled out NDIA claiming, we've absorbed that. one that we've rolled out training. We couldn't absorb that. That's $2 per staff member per month. So we try to keep that as cheap as possible. And we'll roll out another 26 courses shortly. The other one is, you mentioned HubSpot. We've also got a really awesome plugin to HubSpot. So if you're at that organization and you are mature, whereby you can market to prospects and all those type of things, once that prospect gets to a certain stage, that'll automatically be activated as a client in ShiftCare, which is really cool, and bring across the right information map to field. So really kind of proud of the cool integration happening here, because if you have chosen to make an investment somewhere, we don't want you to throw that away. We want them to interoperate. So that's our philosophy as well.
Have you been able to save providers money by moving over to ShiftCare? Because of sometimes you can see gaps financially start to appear when you use a platform like ShiftCare. You can see that, oh, I was losing money in billing, I was losing money in staffing, I was losing money not getting to the fullness of somebody's NDIS plan.
Yeah, look, I guess we've managed to save across a bucket load of areas. I'll try and touch on a couple. Many organizations we talk to, their payroll might take, God, 3 to 7 days. And depending on how complex it is, it might take up to 9 people that time. So moving to ShiftCare, we're really able to simplify that and bring that down to, like really half an hour, depending on how complicated you want to be. The same goes for invoice and billing, especially with the NDIA claims. We can bring that down to, nanoseconds. The other one we find is just scheduling. This client I was talking to that had 2,000 clients, their shift error rate was 50, 60%, because they were with a platform that you drag and drop. You couldn't easily edit a recurring shift. And what that meant is you have to go and edit each individual shift. And you got it wrong. And when you get it wrong, it flows back into care outcome, column sheets, in billing. So that's a really big thing. And then one of the things on my bandwagon that I'm jumping up and down at the moment about is a couple of things. Is everybody should be aiming to deliver a margin or a profit, because that means you can be a sustainable provider and keep on providing valuable service you do to your participants. We don't want you winding up in Chapter 7 and receivership, So one of the things we want to help you do is, how do you manage your human capital utilization? So we know that everybody's got a mixed workforce between full-time, part-time, permanent, part-time, and casual, but everybody works different hours. So we want you to be able to know and see, what does my human capital utilization look like? Over the top of that, we want to help you with, if you're not billing your staff out at 90% or more billable time, you're technically losing money. And this organization I spoke to on Friday, their staff billing time is 95%. And so they use ShiftCare to get to that kind of rate. They've got some really nice KPIs that wrap over that really incent that staff member to get to that kind of level. But when you use tech and, the right kind of KPIs, you can really push that above 90, 95%. And most people feel like 90% is aspirational, not achievable, but it is achievable, and 95% is achievable as a billable rate. And that means you can be like a long-term sustainable provider.
You must be like a lot of high fives in the office at ShiftCare when you see things like that. Like, it's quite satisfying.
Yeah, look, it is really rewarding. And, to be honest, like a lot of organizations, we probably don't stop and celebrate the success of our clients as much as we should. We're on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. It's something we've got to slow down and do, actually.
It's fantastic to be able, because if I put my provider hat on, to get to that percentage, I have done that myself in rostering, where it's like it's not a forgiving system, and then you have to go back and you have to fix all the replications, and it makes, I've cried. I have multiple times. You've led some growth in other companies besides ShiftCare. You've worked for Afterpay and you have worked for Renew Tracks. What lessons from these two companies did you bring across to ShiftCare?
I think the biggest one was working with Afterpay and Ant and Nick, was stick to your knitting. Know what you do, and more importantly, know that your clear lines are about what you don't do, and stay in these guardrails and really just keep within the guardrails. Because as any kind of business, people want you to go out here, out here, out here. But what it does is it deviates, it reduces your bandwidth to focus on this particular piece of knitting. And so, what I saw at Afterpay with the way Ant and Nick operated was that if you stick to your knitting, you're myopically focused on that thematic, and you don't get diverted, you get rewarded. Both you and your customers in the market get rewarded. So that's the biggest thing I've learnt. And look, I must admit, I have to constantly check myself and check our team and keep us back in these guide rails, but it makes a difference, right?
How do you keep the culture motivated to stay within your boundaries? Because it's so hard because there's all these nice shiny ideas that you could go down and opportunities. The bigger you get, the more opportunities it comes towards you.
Yeah, and look, and it comes from your own team, and and they're not bad meaning. They've got the right intentions, the right meaning. Hey Matt, let's do this. Hey Matt, let's do this. Hey Matt, I saw this. Hey Matt, I saw this. I think, like anything, you've just got to keep on reinforcing what our direction is, why we get rewarded for the direction, and actually this doesn't fit within those boundaries, and kind of clearly communicating that real time. Thanks, we'll keep that on the radar. But at the moment, we're focused on here for these reasons. I think that's the only thing you can do, really, is be as clear and transparent as you possibly can.
So I felt like Shift Care being in this sector has just like exploded and has gotten really big very fast. What is next for Shift Care when it comes to features and integrations that will make life so much easier for providers and workers?
Yeah, the buzzword I hate at the moment is AI. Everybody feels like it's the panacea to everything. So I don't feel like that will solve a whole lot of things, but I'm not going to focus on that. I'm personally want to focus on more automation, and automation should provide time back to your care workers, your schedulers, your admin, your payroll and invoicing teams. So automation is just generally the focus for us. How can we automate as many tasks as we possibly can, and just make sure that's baked in with compliance and workflow and exception handling processes. So we're really focused on that automation. I guess one of those ones I kind of mentioned earlier was, hey, someone's going to cancel a shift. You may as well automate the filling of that shift with a qualified caregiver who is available in the right location.
How do you prioritize these features and what gets updated first in your next builds?
Yeah. So I feel we touched upon this a little bit earlier. There's kind of four key segments for us. One is, hey, the market is requesting these features. Our customers are requesting these features. Either they've currently got an application doing that, or a feature in our product isn't working as they would like, or there's a gap in that feature. Or actually, you know what, customers are so pissed off due to a missing feature, some form of frustration, that they're saying, hey, Matt, team, we're out of here, but these are the reasons. And then the fourth element is support. What do our support tickets look like? And, what we do is we look at these daily, right? So what's the average resolution time, and what are the key buckets, and where are they? And once they get over a certain spike, we go, that's that tipping point whereby our staff can't bear it anymore. And our customers go, stuff it, Matt, it's too much. I'm not waiting on the line any longer to help for you to resolve this issue. We focus on those. So really that's those four buckets for us. And we generally prioritize, what's the market asking for? And that kind of solves a lot of the other elements as well.
One thing that I noticed was communication's been quite easy with ShiftCare. So I'm just used to dealing with people that I have to wait 7 to 10 working days. Is that a part of the philosophy of ShiftCare is to be able to give information and receive it to your customers really quickly? Because I think I was a bit taken back when it was just so easy to communicate. Like it was a simple, I'd email or a phone call and something would just get done. Is that how did you make this work? Like, is this a part of your philosophy of ShiftCare?
Yeah, look, our philosophy is every support request via chat should be answered within 30 seconds by a real
Yeah.
person. There'll be exceptions when that doesn't happen. It's interesting because I want to promote, hey, the phone number, you pick up the phone and you phone the support, that should be answered within 30 seconds. But it doesn't help us solve the issue a lot of the time, because if you're on chat, we can say, hey, Sarah,
Yeah.
ding, ding, ding. Hey, Sarah, we're just going to share your screen. Can you share with
Yeah.
us what's happening? And we can eyeball what's happening with you, because you can share your screen with us. Whereas if you're phoning us, it's a lot harder to do. So I guess that's one of the principles. The other one is we really do. We try to get back to everyone as quick as we can. Sometimes we probably don't have the right product knowledge because we move so fast. As I mentioned, we don't have the right product knowledge across support and customer success. Some things can take a little bit longer to get back to, but we're constantly trying to improve in that area. One thing we do focus on is our help articles and YouTube videos, we try to make it as easy as we can for people to self-discover. That's our goal, and we'll get better anyway.
So, in as tech, innovates and it creates with Shift Care, what do you think will blow people's minds in the next few years with changes coming?
Yeah, I think there's two aspects, and I won't use any technical buzzwords or anything like that. But one of them is automation should blow people away. We should just be able to help automate many, many, many different tasks. The other one that my big focus is what I call the democratization of care. And what I mean there is I'm talking about providing complete transparency between the organization, the caregiver, client, their families, and other providers. We should just open up the lines of communication and share as much as we can with all of those kind of channels, because the family members are asking for, I need more information. I want more real-time information about what's happening with my son, my daughter, my mum or dad or whoever it is. They just want information. But what I find is there's too many providers out there just holding back. They want to hold those silos and keep them to themselves because of two key reasons. One is they're afraid that myself as a family or a participant, I'm going to steal your care worker. Like one of the biggest things that just holds us back from true innovation.
Yeah.
And we roll things out, you get a whole lot of people jumping up and down and saying, hey, we don't want to share the caregiver's first and surname with the participants.
What?
Why the hell not?
Yeah.
Like, what are you concerned about? If you're providing a great service, you've got a great culture. What does it matter? I don't want to provide all the notes and all the images. It's like, why not? What are you hiding? And so what I'd like to do is just democratize that whole information sharing ecosystem. And that's what we're continuing to do with our family portal. And we're just going to get better and better and drive it harder and harder for our clients to utilize.
What's as providers, it's in our best intentions to be able to give that information because you can't hide anything. Like, for me, I've always thought it was like, for me, my philosophy has been that if you're working with somebody with complex communication, I'll give an example, that when they go home to the family house, they should be able to talk about what they did that day at dinner with their family. And if they can't have an input, then there's a problem as a provider because I haven't given enough information to the family to say what happened, because everybody should have an opportunity to go home and vent about their day, regardless. The idea that you've got a portal you got the portal and you're working on it, I think that will solve a lot of problems as well when it comes to behaviors of concern, because you can actually pinpoint what happened during that date. So as a family, you're not having the other end of somebody regulating themselves. So kudos. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see a bit more. I should have dived more into that when I was doing my snoop into ShiftCare. Silly Sarah.
Yeah, by the way, that's there available now. We call that the family portal. And it's kind of, when we designed that, I wanted to be the love child of between LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook, right? So when you could see a timeline of future shifts, you could scroll down to historical ones, and you could see the notes, but you could also scroll the carousel of images and videos. You can see what you did with the participant that day. Like, people have certain feeding plans whereby, hey, my food needs to be cut into 1 centimeter cubes. If it's over that, then we've got a real issue, right?
Yeah.
And so designed to be able to share, hey, this is the plate of food that I served to that participant today that meets the meal plan, the prep plan, and we just want to democratize all of that. Just make sure that's shared with both the participant, their families, guardians, and even other practitioners.
The idea that you can take photos and videos and all that stuff and share that's fantastic because it says 1,000 words. And then I find with families, they tend to like to share the photo. Look what Sally did today, went out with Harry and they went and did X, Y, and Z. Look at the big, beautiful smile on Sally's face. Like, that's fantastic. It is kind of like having an opportunity to be socially present when you've got limits. So it's cool.
Yeah. I worked in the banking industry for many years, and we call that omni-channel. And, information is entered once but shared across many different channels. And so the goal is the caregiver would write their notes as normal under the context and awareness that this is going to go to the family member and my admin team. And then they would share the photos. They only do that once. It's delivered up through all of those channels at once. So you don't have to enter any more information. There's no more additional sharing. That's what we're focused on. And, when I, as a care worker, I'm taking photos and videos, I'm taking them on the phone, but within the ShiftCare app. So they're not stored on that individual's phone. So we're really considering data security and governance and all those type of good things as well.
Wow. I'm gonna have to go back and play with that because that sounds really amazing. Like I know like all the rostering stuff, but the idea that families get it in real time and can have conversations and talk about life, like, their kids' life, that's something to be really proud of. Well done.
Awesome.
Sorry. What's your leadership philosophy when it comes to building tech for people who do emotionally demanding work?
I feel like the goal is to make it as simple as possible to utilize and not frustrate them. Like their job can be hard. It can be both rewarding and it can be, emotionally draining and frustrating. And I'm sure they all get stressed. So our job is we can't pile on top of that with bad tech. So if we can make it easy, and I'm going to use the term dummy proof, 25,000 people seem to think our application is dummy proof. That seems to work and hit the mark. It's something we're going to, as we continue to innovate and as you add more features and functionality into a platform, how do you not add that complexity on top? That's the hard part for us now because we've been known for, hey, I don't have to be an expert. I can get up and running on ShiftCare in a matter of minutes. We've got to continue with that sort of that frame of mind and that thinking as we continue to develop more products and features. That's our goal. And I guess what we're going to have to do is just continue to try to slow down and be a lot more thoughtful as well, moving into, as we continue to add more in there. But this is also where automation comes into play. Just how can we make their life a little bit simpler?
So you're very passionate in shift care and you're quite empowering shift care in the disability and aged care sector. What does it look like outside of shift care for you?
Inside of
Well,
ShiftCare,
inside, outside, which how do you keep this passion going? Because it's a lot. Like you've done a lot in a short period of time. Really?
yeah, it's look, it's like anything. You've got to I kind of I think I really love what I do, so that really helps. And I'm doing feels like I'm doing good in the industry, and it feels like I'm doing good for the company, our staff, our customers, and shareholders, which is great. And then one of my other philosophies is I find if I don't exercise in the morning and I don't have caffeine either before or after exercise, I find the day really sucks and drags on. So, I try to run a balanced life, and I try to eat well, exercise really hard in the morning, and that sets me for the day, and it keeps my energy levels high, really. And I think the other big thing is it can all get overwhelming about, hey, I've got all
Yeah.
of this to do, but just focus on one thing. This is what I say to my team. Hey, don't worry about everything. Just what's the one thing I can do today to make a difference for either my staff, my colleagues, or my customers, or my caregivers. So that's it. It's what's the one thing, and just do one thing after the other, one step up, one foot after the other. That's all it is.
You guys at Shift Care, you do a lot in the community. Like I've seen that you guys are um, having workshops, you guys go to expos. Is this for brand awareness or this is an element of giving back to the community?
I think there's a couple of elements, and we'll talk about. Obviously, there's a marketing element to that. So how do we continue to one build the brand, reinforce the brand. The other one is how do we learn more about the market? Like, so we participate in these conferences because we're listening, we're learning about what's new, what's working, what's frustrating, what's pissing people off, etc. We bring that back in and go, right, how can we incorporate that in our product? The other one is we're doing a series of road shows at the moment, especially regionally. We're putting on 9 regional shows, plus we do one our own in Perth, Melbourne, Sydney, and Brisbane. And that's to bring the community together to create a community whereby you can attend these events for free. You can network with providers and leaders in that local area. We pay for all of that. Yes, we talk, but it's not a hard sell because we more so want to learn about what works in that region, what's not working in that region, and how do we create an environment for that region to talk to each other? Because we know if we can connect providers together, ultimately participants getting the better care. Because we spoke about how do you stick to your guardrails? I might get a participant coming through from a referral. I go, actually, sorry, sir, I can't take this participant because they don't fit within my bounds of what I'm really good at and want to be really good at. But you know what? I met a really cool provider at the ShiftCare event the other day, and they specialize in that. Here's their number. So that's our goal, vision, and purpose. That's what we're trying to do with all of the events that we either run ourselves, and we're getting really quite vocal about running our own events because we don't want that to cost a cent for those providers in the market, whether they're a customer of ours or not. And they don't even have to be a provider. They can be a caregiver wanting to think about becoming a provider, and they can come along. We've got a whole lot of them coming along as well, learning about what's it like to start my own provider, and how rewarding it can be, and also how challenging it can be, especially if you've got to go through that registration process.
You sounds like you've got a whole room of shifties.
Yeah, oh yeah, we just finished one in Geelong yesterday, which was my first ever time to Geelong. And actually, for those who haven't been to Geelong, Geelong's an awesome city, actually. Gorgeous. But we had some just amazing people in the room, like really amazing people doing the right things for the right reasons, and very vocal about what works, what doesn't, and what the challenges are. And our goal is, how can we uplift the community as well? How can we highlight what we're seeing across our 6,000 providers about what you need to do to run a sustainable provider, but also what are we seeing in Canada, the US, and the UK that you really need to give some thought to about how do you bake compliance in financial discipline from the ground up in your organization?
Are you doing anything different in Canada, UK, compared to what we're doing in Australia when it comes to systems like this? Like, are you stealing any ideas off them to bring it to ShiftCare?
Yeah, look, maybe I'll talk about what do we see in the US that's interesting. One is they've rolled out a product or a process called electronic visit verification. What that means, Sarah, is if my care worker does a shift with a participant over there, we have to verify that shift happened, was at location, was with this participant, provided these services with this approved staff member, right? At this geofence, I need to submit that to essentially a central government agency before I can even think about claiming. And then it's verified. Then it comes back. Now I can submit my claim. And so that flips the model here on its
Yeah.
head where, I submit claim and I deal with my errors retrospectively, which is interesting, confronting, and a freaking nightmare if you're a provider. Like the setup is really hard.
Yeah.
But once you've set it up right from the ground up, I think there's a lot of benefits, and our Australian colleagues could learn from that. I think that would reduce a lot of billing errors later on. So that's one key takeaway that we've built into ShiftCare globally. The other one that I think is really awesome in America is 9 states are piloting an outcome-based funding model. Now, when you normally hear outcome-based funding, I go, warning, Will Robinson, the government's trying to take more money away from me as a provider, so get stuffed. But they're not doing that. They're keeping the rates and everything the same, but they're saying, hey, Sarah, if you deliver the participant outcome at this, like they move into supported employment, supported independent living, by this time frame, we're going to provide you a performance kicker. Because you know what? It benefits the participant and it benefits us with total cost of ownership. And so that's really cool. And that's happening across 9
Yeah.
states at the moment. So we're watching that really carefully. And what we've done with that is we've created a really new called care plans and goals baked into the participant's profile. Probably one of the best ones across the industry. And it's all baked in at the profile, ties to the shift, timesheet, and all this type of stuff. So later on, you can prove outcome-based work. So you can prove this shift actually tied to an outcome for that participant. And I think that's really important for both governments and your family members and guardians to say, hey, Sarah, I looked after your child yesterday, this month, and here's a report how that actually tied back to the goals and objectives of that particular client. So that's cool. If you look at Canada, Canada's a bit of a fragmented nightmare, fragmented systems across
Yeah.
different provinces and states. And then you've got the French language to deal with, which is more our problem than anybody else's. But the one over there that I think is really hard is the labor laws. Like if you've got an enterprise bargaining agreement, let's just say if somebody cancels their shift tonight for tomorrow morning, I can't just automatically invite anybody who's qualified for that shift. I have to look at tenure and seniority first, and I have to offer it to them first and let them decline it before I can go to someone else. All of that has to live within the scheduler's mind
Oh.
or a paper-based document. really hard to deliver programmatically. So that really limits their ability to automate a lot of things. So the poor Canadians they're stuck between a rock and a hard place at the moment. And if you look at the UK, they've got a compliance regime over there called CQC, and that's baked in at the ground up. So all of your systems and processes have to be fully audit ready and compliance from the ground up. And they've committed to doing 9,000 drop-in audits within the next 14 months. And which means that I can knock on your door and say, "Hey, Sarah, show me all your documentation on that. Show me that you're pressing a CQC button report," and you can get everything at your fingertips, which is really hard for any provider and any technology vendor to provide, but that's what they're expecting.
So pretty much, besides the fact in Australia, which you do most of your business, you have been able to go abroad globally. Like, so practically what you're doing is that you're learning from every different market to bring into Australia. Is Australia your testing hub for the other global markets, or is it the other global markets are testing?
Yeah, look, it's so what we're looking at is what do we learn in the US, Canada, New Zealand, UK, Middle East, etc. Can we build that into our overall platform? Now, I mentioned I want to turn on features for everybody. Sometimes you go, actually, you know what? I probably can't afford to risk this on 6,000 customers in Australia. I might test it on our American colleagues first. So that's what we do. And then obviously once that works really well, then we go, okay, now we can turn it on safely for Australia. So it's like a staggered launch plan. And so we do pilot a lot of things over there, but they come straight back into Australia.
Yep. Is there anything that you've piloted that just didn't work?
No. Look,
It's a pretty good rate.
we sometimes get it wrong. Like as I was talking about the EVV thing, is one of the things you have to do is they've got daily, weekly, hourly limits for these particular services provided, less as a dot rate. And we rolled that out. What they did once when we rolled that out, it changed one of the default price books for some of our Australian colleagues. So when they were creating new shifts, it automatically selected the wrong price book. So that created a few downstream issues, but we resolved that pretty quickly.
Thank you so much for today. If anyone would like to find more about ShiftCare, the best way to get to ShiftCare would be through your website, social media, which you guys have got a fantastic thing going on.
Yeah, look, we just aim to be the best platform out there at the cheapest price. Most importantly, with the best people backing it up in the background. And what we find is, you can buy on product, price, or service, and most people think they're buying on like a really cost-effective product, great product. But actually, what people really love more than anything is our service and the people behind the scenes. That's the feedback I get time in, time out, every single day from customers we work with. Just, hey, God, your people are awesome. So that really makes the job rewarding.
Yeah. How do you hire these awesome people? Where do you find them?
Yeah, we've been talking about that a lot. And like any providers, staff are hard to find. They're really hard to find. And a lot of them, they might join the industry for the wrong reason. They want to get paid the most and all of those type of things. We want them to be sort of thematic driven. Hey, they want to join the industry because they're actually delivering something that has a greater good and a purpose. So we're looking for those kind of people that aren't necessarily chasing dollar after dollar after dollar. They want to feel like they've got a purpose and they're making a difference. So they're the people we look to hire, and we look to hire like for like people that we've already got where possible. And we put a lot of credence on internal referrals as well.
I definitely can tell that because, like I said before, it was my communication with ShiftCare has been really easy to be had. Yeah. All right. Well, that's all for today.
Done. Thanks, Sarah.